I always wonder to myself if I should try and find some formal intro to these journals or recordings that I make or whatever these could be called. And I figure, well, if I can think of something more formal to start these off with, I'm sure I'll think of it later. But for the sake of ease, I guess just hit the record button and start recording. But I guess I'll just start with what I did today, following up from yesterday. I actually got a call back from one of the places that I called for to see if they could provide any assistance, and I got the call back, but then they started talking, and then I quickly realized, and they said it as much themselves, that they have no actual resources or ability to do anything. They don't have any programs. And so all I got was more let's think, I didn't get more referrals. They said all they could do is more referrals. And then as this person on the phone was going through the referrals, I guess part of me, like, my responses just kind of seemed to give away that, like, oh, you called that one, didn't you? And so the person on the phone was like, you've probably heard all of these already before, haven't you? Let me guess, you checked that one. And then, as politely as I could, I just said yes. Yeah. I'd, um, I'd gone through all these referrals already, as polite as I could, and we both laughed for a second and then, hung up, and that was it. And the other one that I missed calling yesterday by 30 minutes, I got to call them today, and again, all they were able to do was give me referrals. Referrals to places I had already checked, and those referral places just give you more referrals. So I started with the one, gave me referrals to more places, and it turns out those places can only refer you to other places, and then those places are the same places that the last place referred you to. So, yeah. There was at least one place, though, that it's so far the only one that hasn't managed to. Well, no, two. There are two so far that I haven't actually managed to contact or get a call from yet. On one of them, I left a voicemail, only to realize that in my voicemail I didn't actually give them my phone number, so I had to call back and give another voicemail. Just, saying, hey, it's me again. This is my phone number. You can call me back at. And then, sent that off. And then the other one, sent in a voicemail, and even though they said they'd be back in office at this point, they're still not back in office, so I had to send another voicemail. And they have a form you can fill out online, and so I filled out that form, and I was so tired and out of it while I was filling out that form, and just so stressed at the situation. I forgot if I had put my email and my phone number into the form. It's like, oh man, I think I sent another thing with no contact information. Even though it had asked, like, what was the best way to contact you? I just put email and phone without putting. But, so I sent a second email with, like, hey, this is who I am, blah, blah, blah. I sent this form in earlier. You might see it. I don't believe I put my contact information. Here it is. But then I double checked. So I sent that off, and then I double checked the form. And I saw that as the required fields, there was a phone number field and an email field. I just kind of instinctually filled out the first page with all the easy information it had, and put all my mental focus onto the later pages with the more complicated questions. But I was glad to see that it had the little asterisks that made it a required field. So there was literally no way I could have put in the form without putting in the necessary contact information. So, you know, 2 more places left. 2 more chances to see if something can happen with that. 2 more opportunities. It's funny, it's like parallel planning. I'm trying to build a plan if and when one thing doesn't work out. And now you also have to build a plan for if the help that you're looking for doesn't work. And in a way, it's somewhat comforting. In a way. In a strange way. But, so yeah, now I'm planning on, well, what do I do if none of the people I'm calling to help and build up that backup plan, that structure, that underneath structure plan, that what do I do if something goes bad, you know? Well, what do I do if something goes worse? And now I have to do the opposite plan on how to survive if there is no help. It's kind of funny in a way. I mean, I don't mind that at all. It's what I have to do. Yeah, as long as I'm on my own, it's what I have to do. Yeah. But that's really something I learned today, is when you end up having to let go of something as even an option, or to help you, when you realize that not everyone is, not when you realize, when you know, you already know ahead of time that not everyone is equipped to help. Either you don't have the resources to help, you don't have the circumstances for help, you don't have the context, the support, and you start looking for help. And then you realize that not everyone you ask for help, even if at first they offer it, that doesn't mean it's good help. And it's one of those things I have a hard time articulating without just I guess going into it a little more, I guess I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I contacted someone I haven't seen in decades, and not decades, I'm not that old, but someone I haven't seen in at least a decade, but more. I, I, I called them, and they're a relation, you know, they're family. And I asked them for help, and at first it seemed pretty hopeful in a way. It had a. It felt like there was a chance to it. But as we talked more and as we contacted more, I realized that that person was. They helped out of a certain sense of urgency and obligation due to the objective connection, which is blood, you know. Objective connections versus more like, you know, we know each other through work. We know each other. We became friends, or yeah, we were in a partnership a few years ago, or you know, work partnership, relationship, whatever form it took. But no, I could, as it slowly went along, the person slowly started showing signs that this was all a feeling of obligation due to the blood relation. And so the person started out like, I got you. Let's see what happens. And then slowly as it went along, I realized that the person I was talking to left so early and with such an image of her in such an image in their mind of what the situation was like when they left, that they literally weren't able to understand what the problem was. And slowly, as we went along, the person kept suddenly trying to make the whole problem about themselves, or suddenly trying to take the situation and make it about them in some way. Started trying to take it personal. The person took the whole situation almost as an attack on their memory of the person in question. On who they thought that person was. Only they hadn't had the same experience that I had been through. This familial relation left so early and never realized what was happening to them, that this person, in trying to address it with me, and it eventually became, instead of support or help, it became addressing at me the situation, which that slow shift of just like, oh, this person is trying to sort of play to my feelings and to the memory of the person who she thinks the other person is. You know what, never mind. Forget, I'm not gonna complain about it. I'll just keep on being consistent, but if I slip with that, I apologize. they they were trying to play both sides to the memory of who they remembered that person being and to me at the same time. And so this person kept it's hard, I guess I'll just have to say in a vague sense what it was, but this person would suddenly be like, I would tell this person is legitimately trying to get rid of me. This person is trying to offload me, trying to offload us, me and my pets, literally trying to get rid of us, and she's looking for anyone who can be convenient enough to just throw us out to or stick us with. And suddenly the person who I contacted for help was like, this person's they're testing me, aren't they? They're trying to test me to see if I'm still a good, relation, still see if I'm still a good family member. They're trying to test me. And I had to pause for a second and realize that was, I guess, the first warning, the first red flag of just, this person is going to take the situation that I asked them for help in and is going to make it about themselves. And so at least once I politely said, just to see if I could sort it out, I said like, oh no, not at all. You are not being tested. In fact, you're not really being considered at all. You're being thought of more as just utility, convenience, but there's absolutely no thought for you as a person in what the other person is saying. They'll come up with a list of all kinds of things. They're not trying to see if you're going to be a good child. You're not being tested. You're not even being considered. You're not even being thought of as a person. You're being thought of as a location. I didn't go that in depth. I said something that condensed what I'm saying now into something smaller. But the gist of it was like, you're being thought of as a location, just convenience, the easiest one on the list of places to get thrown out to, that kind of thing. But other than that, this person literally couldn't care any less about you or, your situation. Even this person even talked about sending us off to places that just like, what's the thought process behind that, but that's because this person's only thinking of themselves while they're saying the thing. They're just saying everything else is utility, just as a tool, but not actually saying what any of the other people are going through or living their lives or complications or anything like that. So, that was the first thing it was concerning, like, oh, she's trying to turn this situation into a test about herself. They're trying to turn this situation into a situation about themselves, and it's like, oh man, I need your help, but what do I do? How am I supposed to respond to that? But I did, and the person was just like, yeah, whatever, and just bounced to nothing. Just look at these. Just look at these links that I sent you. And it was a bunch of like sort of half links, not really well researched. Most of them completely out of my qualifications or in a completely different area. And it sort of became like that, sort of like not very well thought out, just obligatory. And I was doing my own thing in the background. I wasn't depending on that person, especially not as time went on. I wasn't depending because I could see like this help is slowly slipping itself away. So I just kept on, and slowly, more and more, that person just stopped saying anything, stopped contacting, or I would have to give a quick progress update, like, oh, I did this, and then the person would be like, oh, cool, and then, would finally say something, would stop just saying anything on their own, and the few messages I would get afterwards would slowly shift more and more of, would slowly shift more and more of the blame and the what's the word? Like, you're the one who has to fix this. You have to fix this, that kind of thing. It would slowly, each subsequent thing would slowly shift it onto me, like, slowly framing me more and more as being the unreasonable one. If you would just do something about this, if you would just fix it, if you would just talk and communicate, if you would just do this, and that, then everything would be fine. And then I was slowly realizing, like, it's slipping away even more and more. I can't depend on this person. And I mean, that's the difference. There is a difference, right, between codependency and just depending on someone. When you're in a relationship, you can depend on each other, interdependence, rather than codependence. But you're still able to function on your own, but then there's situations where you realize you can't depend on someone for something. And there's even situations where you realize you shouldn't depend on someone for something. You should be able to do that on their own. If they do it, it's out of kindness or generosity, but you shouldn't expect to depend on them to do that for you. But then there are other areas where you are interdependent on each other. I don't want to go too much into that right now. That'll become a whole other thing. So I'll just continue with what I was talking about originally. But, so I got to see the person slipping away more and more. Until finally the person I was talking to, and I'll paraphrase and just keep it vague. I don't want to get too much specifics. But I told the person, I've been left here. The other person has abandoned the 6 of us here, me and my pets, by ourselves, and has left us here alone. But this is a good chance for me to there was a really good wording I saw the other day. Ah, there we go. I found it. The periods when a narcissist is withdrawing can be an ideal time to safely plan your exit from the relationship. And, I mean, that was already what I was doing part ways, but I did a little more research to see if that, like, is that a good idea? And then I came across that and I was like, okay, so it is a good idea. So I told this person to the effect, removing some of the more indicting language, just saying, I've been alone for a while now. The person has left us here, taken all the stuff, and so I just said, perfect opportunity, to plan some kind of exit or alternate plan for safety. And this relation I was talking to just said, their next message just said, yeah, or you could just endure and apologize. Until you're set up to move out. And I just kind of sat on that for a second. And I thought to myself, well, one, it's redundant. I'm already setting myself up to not even, whether it's moving out or whatever it needs to be to find somewhere safe. I mean, I'm already doing that. Obviously, that was something I was already doing. But it was the part that said, or you could endure and apologize. And then I started to think to myself, what does this person think I've been doing this whole time? Minus the apologize part, in reference to the enduring part. The apologize part is its own thing, obviously. Like, when you're dealing with someone who is narcissistic, when you're dealing with a narcissist, it's like, no. And it's not even a case of you have something to apologize for, but you're just refusing to do it. It's no, I don't have an apology to make. I don't have there is no apology to be made. It's someone else trying to guilt another person, putting words in their mouth, saying things that that person never said. All kinds of emotional, mental manipulation, constantly trying to get the other person into thinking that things are their fault and taking responsibility for the other person's actions, and the gamut, the typical stuff with that. And I was just thinking to myself, I'm not gonna get upset with this person. This person has... It was not a good idea. It was not helpful in the end to ask someone who was going to bring a lot of emotional baggage into the whole thing. and turn the situation into a self-defense of what they think someone is like and their memory of them. And I did it because it was the only thing I had, and I had hoped that maybe this person had seen something like I had seen before they left, but it became very clear that this person has no understanding. And not only does this person lack understanding, they would not want understanding. They're actively denying themselves, going into that sort of phase of denial of what the problem is. They don't understand the other person. And the other thing the person said was, you guys need to talk. That would fix. It's just poor communication. You guys just aren't communicating well. And that part made me pause too. It's like, she's thinking normal. She's thinking in terms of a healthy relationship. She's thinking in terms of, well, if this person is saying this thing, I don't remember this person being like, this is not my image of this person. So you must just not be communicating, and things like that. And then she sent me a thing of what this other person is saying. And it's a completely warped version of the situation. I'm like, oh no. She doesn't think that person would lie. She doesn't think that person would warp things or distort reality. She has no idea of what this looks like. That communication doesn't mean anything in this situation. It doesn't fix anything. This person has no realization that we did talk, that there was clarity, that this has been discussed, but it was talked about with the person who doesn't care about anything other than what or how they want or imagine things or think things to be. This is a person who believes something because that is what they want to believe. This is a person who, no matter what you say, no matter what you do, no matter what evidence, no matter how you argue, no matter how clear you are about something, there's just something in their mind that is disconnected from anything you could say. And I did see that. It's like you hold boundaries, you make it clear you're not going to fall for it. You make it clear, you hold firm, but you're not going to convince a narcissist. You're not going to be able to argue. They may pause for a second. They might withdraw or put a face on for a second of agreeableness, but that person, it's only for a moment. It's just surface, and then they're just going to go right back to how they were before. Well, it's not even that they're going back. They're still that, but they're just hiding it for a moment. You just get a little gap. But that's when I realized that this person I asked for help, it's too personal for them. And so that was it. I wasn't going to get upset or try and force it or continue on. Just leave it there. And the person just hasn't said anything since then. That was pretty much it. It was a source of help that just had to let go. It's not worth the fight. I just don't have time and energy to convince someone, and someone who hinges any help. Despite seeing the effects of it, despite seeing the actual harm that it's doing, that person needs it to be validated in their mind first. No matter how much they see, they need some... It's like seeing someone getting hit or bullied or anything like that, and before you're able to help them, you need some kind of like doctor's note or a diagnosis or something like that. And I realize that I just can't contend with that. I can't compete with that. I'm not going to convince this person, so it's time to just step away and put just distance again. There's nothing that's going to come of this, and this person has fully convinced themselves that, there's really nothing going on. They started with a big, like, I'm going to help, and then slowly shrank it into just like, well, what's the problem? Why don't you just fix it yourself? And then it's like, okay. The person doesn't understand what's going on. They don't understand that this situation has nothing to do with communication. This isn't about angst or communication or rebellion or anything like that. This has absolutely nothing to do with those things. And the person has closed their ears to anything that would be in opposition to the image they formed in their mind about the person. There is something that is funny to me, though, and it's the person has, a family, and they tried to put me in contact with their partner, and like, see if you can talk to this person, that this person can help. And then I was like, okay, let's see. I haven't seen this guy in 10 years. He knows even as much as you are out of the loop now. They're definitely out of the loop. As much as, like, okay, let's see. And that person, this relation's partner, pretty much gave me what I expected, which is just like, just it all starts with a good attitude. Tell yourself that you'll get what you want, and be relentless. And honestly, I think your conflict with the other person would chill if they just saw that you have a plan and that you're making progress, that kind of thing. And it was sweet. I don't resent or begrudge the person. I just know, like, this person has no idea what's happening. This person was suddenly sort of co-opted into a situation that they don't know anything about. But one part I did find really funny was, when the person said, trust me, I get it. Those people, they're emotional and they trip about things that we don't. But unfortunately, that's just a fact of life, dude. And the other person just wants you to take more initiative towards being independent and standing on your own feet. I know the first chance I wanted to get out of my home, I did. Being there was driving me nuts. And I was just thinking to myself, like, it's okay. So I just said thanks. That's all I said. His thing boiled down to just have a good plan and a good attitude, and I bet the other person will see where you're coming from and start helping you out. And it was like, this is an entirely different situation than what these two could even begin to understand. And I'm not trying to alienate them. In fact, I gave them a couple chances to figure it out, to understand, even tried to explain it more deeply. And, I didn't do the whole thing like, you just won't get it, I didn't do, like, you just don't understand me. It's like, no, let me take time to try and give you clarity and all that and explain the situation. But it just didn't. Nothing came of that. But the other person, the partner, you have to be willing to work and go for what you want and be relentless. And I was just, it's like, thanks, I appreciate it. And then we didn't say anything else after that. That was it. But it kind of reminds me of, like, a gag on TV. I could almost see it being something like out of Cheers or Frasier. Just like the guy appears and starts trying to diagnose or do all kinds of things like that. And then they just sort of look over him like, who is that guy? Who is this guy? Like, does he know anything about the situation? And then the other character is like, oh no, he's just my that's just my partner. He gives good advice. He's a hard worker. And then it's like, no doubt. I don't think he really understands what's going on, though. So, thanks, polite, and then just going back to the actual conversation that they were holding. But yeah, you know, it's one thing when you have a very understandable, like, this person doesn't quite get it. They've lived a whole different life. They have a whole different mindset, and they're trying to sort of offer blanket, sort of platitude type advice because they sort of feel pressured to help. They're not really there to listen or to understand. They're mainly just there to be like, I've got advice for you. Here are some tips, and then that's it. And it's like, okay, I get it. I'm not upset with you for that. I don't even know who you are. I don't even really know who you are. But thank you. I appreciate it. And then, just move on. Just accept that, none of this is really informative or useful to the situation, but that person is trying their best. But it hurts more when someone you at least were a personal relationship, that kind of blood thing, even if it has been over 15 years, you kind of hope maybe you can rekindle something, but then you realize, like, no, it still wouldn't work. There's still just a fundamental lack of understanding, and it's the person doesn't want to understand. And the person who is causing the anguish and the struggle and the manipulation they already got into that person's head a long time ago. And you just don't have the time and the energy to spend on anything regarding that situation. I think the part that hurt the most, though, was that relation having been told that the person, all the things the person said and did, telling me that they regretted I was ever born, and they didn't know what they were thinking ever having another child, and putting all kinds of words in my mouth and distorting and warping the situation so much, and threatening me and telling me that that they were going to hurt me when they got back, and that I didn't even want to imagine what they were going to do to me. And to the point where I even went around and hid all the forks and the knives and the sharp objects in the house. The person telling me blank to my face that they never want to see me again, and they're perfectly fine if I just leave and never come back. And to just take the pets and go, that, I never want to see you again. It was. And then seeing the word apologize. Something about that something about that someone could think in such a way that they could hear and read about someone doing all those things and saying all those things, and in the end turning towards the other person who they were said to and saying, well, if you would just fix it, if you would just apologize. And I thought to myself, so you're not going to even wonder if the other person should apologize or address that with that person. Or that's just out the window. You'll tell someone who hasn't. You'll ignore someone who has said something, who has said those things, who has. And not tell or ask them to apologize, or if they will apologize. Who has actually said something, who has made threats, been harmful, and all kinds of things, and dismiss it as, oh, that person was just angry. Oh, they were just upset for a second, or they didn't really mean it, or you just have to learn how to take it, that kind of thing. But then look at the other person who hasn't said anything, who is actively having words put in their mouth, who the other person is literally telling you lies and distortions, and you'll look at the other person and say, maybe if you would just apologize and endure, you could fix it if you would just talk. And then I realize where the value lies in that other person's mind in regard to the relationship. That even if you said, I'm not going to pick sides, it's very clear that I think you have. And if you haven't, then it's at least clear that you have removed your empathy from one position. And so that's it. That's it. There's nothing else after that. And so that was it, I just left it be. There was no more reason to say anything or do anything like that. There was a thinking of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and there's like two scenes, two different things, and they both, interestingly, they both have to do with data. And one is Picard, saying you could make no mistakes at all and still lose. But and the other one I was thinking about, and it's a good strategy, I think. Is it's that episode where Data is facing that guy in that sort of chess-like game, and Data at the end, he's like, my goal was not to win, but my goal was not to win. My goal was not to lose. And that's kind of it, isn't it? I'm not trying to win a fight. And if the other person loses, and that's what I thought was interesting about that episode, is even though Data didn't win the game and he didn't lose the game, he wasn't the loser of that situation. It was the other guy who made it his win condition that he had to win in order to feel like a winner. And so in the end, even though they technically drawed, and the other guy made himself the loser, and in the end Data wins. He may have had, you know, my goal is not to lose in regards to the game, but in terms of character and things like that, I really do think he won at the end of the day, because he didn't fall into the trap that the other guy in the end he wins as a way to protect his friends, protect his crew, protect his ship from the other guy's arrogance, from his insults. And in the end, he didn't have to prove he was better than the other guy. He didn't have to fight him. He just had to hold firm. And in the end, he won in the other outcome. Even though his goal was not to lose, even though his goal wasn't to win, but he wasn't going to lose. In regards to the game, in regards to the larger outcome, he wins. Because in the end, he decided what winning would look like for him. And so while he didn't literally win in the game, he won by not losing. He won by protecting dignity and honor. And the other guy made himself the loser by putting it all on his feeling of superiority, on his feeling of arrogance, on his pride. My win condition, my winning, just looks like finding somewhere safe, somewhere, somehow. Somehow, somewhere, someplace safe. For me and my pets. That's what that looks like. It's not about winning some self-imposed hierarchy that the other person is trying to make. It's not trying to be better. It's just trying to be safe and find that stability that I'm looking for. Despite it being a bit backhanded, I am grateful that for right now, I have somewhere to be, even if it's completely unstable and could shift at any second. I am grateful that, I have this time to record this. I am grateful that my 5 pets are still healthy and that there's still food in the fridge, and I'm I'm grateful that even though it's unstable and could be taken away at any time, that for right now I do have a way to get a ride to that job I applied for. I mean, we'll have to see. I don't know. But as far as things look right now, I'm grateful for that feeling of hope, and that at least this time, as twisted and messed up as the situation is, I am grateful for this downtime that allows me to plan, and I'm grateful that the other person, even though it's just a mask for right now, even though it's just a temporary lull in the way they treat me, even though it's just performative, even though it's all of that, even though at least it's doing what it's doing, and it's giving me a little more time. I have no idea what to expect, though. I am glad to be in the eye of the storm. I am glad to be in the eye of the storm and not in one of the arms. Yeah, that's the best way I could put it right now. I am grateful that I'm in the eye of the storm and not in the middle of the winds and the hurricane. I am glad that it shifted to allow me this little space, but I don't know how long it'll last, or if the eye will collapse, or if another storm will form on top. I just don't know what the weather's going to look like. But as I I am grateful that there is an eye of the storm right now. It's definitely no time to get complacent. It doesn't mean the other person has changed. It just means things are calm right now. I mean, I guess things can't be hectic all the time. My body's not used to peace. It's not used to healthy. When it feels this quietness and this aloneness, it starts telling itself, well, that means everything is okay. You can calm down now. It's like, no, not yet. I know you're not used to this. And just because it's here doesn't mean the danger's gone away. It just means things are quiet right now. And, still need to be considering things. I guess that's the difference, right? Not necessarily grateful to the person, but I'm grateful for the moment. As self-serving as it can be, as performative as it can be, as much as it's the person trying to punish the other person. In the end, it's me who decides what it means for me. And this is a chance to recuperate. This is a chance to plan and figure out how to get out of one person's fight and into my own success, my own winning. Whether someone reaches out a helping hand or I don't know. I don't know. But I'm at least grateful that it is as it is right now. I think that's it for now.